this. I'm hoping more people show up, but I want to keep things on schedule. And so I'm excited to have you guys. I'm hoping that with you is your student athlete so that we can all be on the same page. Oh, Xavier's joining us now. Good. People are slowly matriculating in. All right, good. All right, so I'm banking that we're all into this and we wouldn't know any different about, college career readiness and being ready to play football if we didn't have football, right? So, without that piece, then obviously we wouldn't be having this conversation. You guys wouldn't know me. And so I'd like to start there. I'd like to start with that piece. And I know that this is not going to be a message or a meeting just to inform people on how to play football in college. It's much bigger than that. As you guys know, the message has been pretty consistent from here. And so, but I do know that that's the connection. And you know what? Maybe the young men on this call, the young men in our program want to play college football, and maybe they don't realize it's a reality. And so maybe it's not, and maybe it's something else that they want to do. And I think that if we live up to the expectations of what we have going on in this presentation, and maybe in some conversations that we enter into after this meeting, that we can find ourselves a possibility in whatever it is that next big step for any one of these kids could be, that we're able to get them there successfully. So the first thing I want to talk about is, let's just say that we're going to go to college and we want to play football. And so the starting point again is football. The people on the outside of the walls of Calvert High School don't know our kids until they see a highlight film or they see some type of promotion that we promote through social media, or maybe a kid is exposed to these coaches or these people at camps. And so I want to start there with that. I want to start there with highlight videos and what do they look like. And so we have to understand what these college coaches are looking for. I've been around college coaches quite a bit, talked to them quite a bit, and I know what they're looking for. I can even go back and ask them for feedback, critique me on what we're sending out there, what they're seeing from our kids, what they're seeing from our program, to make sure that it's doing our kids justice, that it's properly exposing them to what we have to offer. And I think that we have something special to offer beyond the field. And I hope that we're building this reputation through our program, that we've been here long enough and we've built up a serious network of people that we're connected with, that they recognize that we have some really outstanding young men. So we all know Carter Gossif. And what I want to kind of show you is what a highlight film for colleges should look like. We promoted a highlight video here at the end of the season that I shared out that was roughly 30 minutes long. That's way too long. And what you're going to have happen is a college coach is going to come in, he's going to get a video, and he's not going to be able to spend 30 minutes looking at a video. They're going to be limited to 2 to 3 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. But the video that we send out through Huddle, that all these coaches have access to, not just from us sharing it through social media or sending an email, but they have a Huddle account that exclusively allows them to pour into any program. So if I'm in Huddle, which we are, our kids are in Huddle, then any coach across America can jump on the Huddle and pull up film. They can watch our game film. They can do any of that stuff. So they're going to see those things. So long story short of it, a highlight video has got to get their attention. Now, just because it's a good highlight video, just because our kid's a good football player, in the midst and sea of schools of possibility, we have to understand some things. It's all about the right fit. And we're going to talk, and you're going to hear me say about the difference between being recruited and being recruitable. And it's a balanced mindset that we're trying to create in our kids. And so being recruitable says that we have to be able to show them that we have the necessary skills that make us look like something that they would like to have in their program. And also then once they get to that point that they see that on film, then we have all the other intangibles that are vital for us to get into college: the GPA, community service, the coaches backing, and basically the coaches sign off on what this kid's credibility as a character person is, and so forth and so on. But get back to the highlight film, since we're talking about that first and foremost. Highlight film is going to be short, and it's going to show the first 3 to 5 plays, some of the most significant attributes that that player has while on the field. And then that gets them excited. And then we will sometimes break down the film into showing what they did offensively, a few plays, maybe 8, maybe less, what they do significantly on the defense side of the ball if they're there. Doesn't matter if we don't have a lot on one side or the other. And it's not our job to push a kid one way or the other, or even tell the coaches at a college level that this kid's more of this or more of that. They'll evaluate that. And in many cases, you could have a star player that doesn't fit their program, not the way they want a player to play. You know, if they're a power run team, then a receiver like Carter Goshef may not be the fit. Moreover, this year, Carter's situation and him signing with Shenandoah, he's got a chance to get on the field early, not just because he's a good football player and a great young man that makes the locker room better, but he also is coming into a situation where they need guys of his caliber in that position group. They didn't sniff Stevie, and that wasn't anything against Stevie's ability as a quarterback. They loved him as a quarterback. In fact, they saw his talent and felt like he could contribute at another position on the field, like receiver, and they asked him if he'd come and switch positions for them, even put together a financial package for him. And he didn't want to do that. I mean, why would he? He's developed himself from the quarterback. And that was only because they did not necessarily not like his ability as a quarterback. They just had too many quarterbacks in the room. And so we can't be upset or discouraged when we don't understand why a school may or may not be looking at us. A lot of it is so far out of our control. And so I just wanted to go through real quick, highlight some of these things on Carter. What you see on the screen is Carter's junior highlight film video link. And then you're going to see over here to the right, and I don't know how to remove this app thing. There it is. I'll get it out here somehow. Is a simple profile sheet or prospect profile thing that I sent out last year. Carter told me he was interested in playing sports, football in college. So you send that out, and it's a quick little thing that we can put on social media that promotes our player and gives the pertinent information for these coaches to grab onto so they can find some interest in the kid. We do these things with the kids each year, and I think they're pretty important. It separates us from other programs. We're trying to gain exposure to those folks out there in the social media world, and also in the context that I have that I'll share here later on. So I'm just going to go real quick. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I'm going to just show you how I laid out this junior highlight video. And again, the feedback that I got from college coaches from Division I all the way down to Division III told me that this is perfect. This is exactly what they would look for it to be. Let's go ahead and click on that. Over here. All right. So real quick, Carter, a lot of people like to put music on there. The music doesn't matter. Everybody sees this now, right? Are we looking at the YouTube or the video? Can I get a yes or no?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're looking at the video here real quick, and I'm just going to go through it. So again, what happens here is this is Carter's junior season. It tells him the class of 23. Quick, brief, specific stuff that speaks to who they're looking at and why they're looking at them. All right. That was also covered in that little prospect profile sheet that we had. So let's go ahead and go a little farther. All right. So again, a quick snippet. This is important, believe it or not, because this is allowing them to see what Carter looks like in uniform. What's his body type? They'll be able to assess from these pictures, potentially, what is he in the weight room? Does he do anything in the weight room? I mean, he's not a sloppy looking kid. In this picture, for example, it's important that Carter shows off the fact that he can run. I am not seeing his speed here necessarily in this picture, but what they're seeing is they're seeing a guy who has a positive shin angle. This is physiologically speaking about speed performance. And they're seeing him got his shoulders over his balls of his feet or over his knees, and he's pushing and driving. That's an indicator of a guy who comes out of his breaks pretty good. Again, small things, but all these things matter. So then what we do is we get into the 5-play introduction. All right. And again, this is Carter's junior thing. So this is just to follow juniors. Now, there's none of this. I know Huddle allows you opportunity to put these daggone crazy things on there. It says, look here, watch out for this. And that's all fine and dandy. Those things do not matter to the college coaches. They don't matter. You can notice that I've got the mute off. Now, there is music to this, all right? I just turned it off because the college coach doesn't care. He's going to find out in the first 30 seconds whether he wants to watch anymore or not. So his first snap, he's looking. We pointed out that's Carter there, obviously. And what we see is Carter catching a simple slant route. Now, what's important about this image now, all right, so parents in here, you guys getting it down dirty on some football analysts, and this is not going to be the point of this whole meeting tonight. We're going to get into things that are much more important to this. But again, we know that those college coaches out there are getting paid to win football games. They're looking for football players, all right? And so we got to showcase that we have a football player here. So now what's significant about this video is not the catch, it's this. Carter is pulling away from these guys. It does not matter if he scores a touchdown. I mean, it's nice, right? Stats don't matter. They're not going to be looking on max preps because many of the coaches don't do max preps right. All right. Some coaches don't do max preps at all. So they're not going to care that this catch touchdown, great. It doesn't do anything for them. They want to see if he separates. They can see they can separate. All right. That's important. And again, this is just a receiver, right? Now we have another play here. All right. So we're coming off. Carter catching the ball in space. Okay. Puts the ball down and watch him finish. He's putting his shoulders down and finish. All right, now we've got a quick play at safety. Now, again, everybody wants to show as a safety, guys going up and making catches and balls, interceptions. On this case, we're showing Carter being physical. Again, that's an important thing there. Being physical. He sees that. Boom. Okay, no big deal. All right, because again, we're talking about a young man who I think adds any value to any program. So again, playing over top, being physical, these are all things that I think are advantageous to him. All right, now they're showing another pick six, is playing on top of the ball. Again, all these things I think captivate the coach and gets them interested in our young man. So then again, after we've done 5-play introduction, okay, no big deal. You go into, now we'll go into specific wide receiver clips. And again, you know, we'll package these together in a certain way that allows the coach to see things. And then we go into defensive clips down at the end. And, you know, that's how it works. That is a highlight video for college coaches. It's not to mean that, you know, these other, clips that we show or did not show, but Carter had a pretty successful season his junior year. It does not mean those things aren't important, but we know these college coaches are looking for specific things that we need to showcase to get them interested. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
The problem with a longer highlight video, if we're just talking about highlight videos now, is that sometimes the specific things these coaches are looking for, believe it or not, the plays in there were bigger than just Carter making plays and catching. You know, it's about hip mobility. It's about coming out breaks. It's about making tackles a good pad level. It's about all those things. Them looking at the finer points of that athlete. They're not going to miss. If they're going to invest time in their this player to come to their school, they're going to evaluate every single piece they can on film to figure out if they're interested or not. And so at the end of the day, if we have a highlight film that's longer than 3.5 minutes, then what happens is one of those plays that could showcase the very thing that they're looking for in his athleticism could be pushed to the back and they never get to it. And then that film doesn't do anything for him or us. So I hope that makes sense. That's the highlight video. Is there any questions about that at all? Now, I say all that. I ask the kids, you know, coming into this part of the year for the kids who are going to be seniors next year, or even, you know, the kids are going to be juniors next year that had a lot of opportunity to play at the varsity level, to come and sit with me after they've pulled out their highlights. You can imagine with the number of games we played and the number of players who may want to play in the college level, the amount of energy and effort it would take from me, who isn't in his regular job right now, but teaching mathematics, to do a highlight film for every kid. What I asked them to do is to kind of pull out the plays, even if it's just pulling a clip for each one. We can then sit down and start to put them together, and I can show them how those things are organized and what's the best way for them to showcase their talents. But we need the kids. Kids have got to invest in themselves. If they're not willing to put the time in to help us sit down and do this, then you know, you have to wonder how important is this part of their future career to them. And so they've got to invest in that. When it comes to their senior season, or even when it comes to the fact that they're now becoming recruitable, Then what happens is during the season is that they would post on Huddle their best plays each week. And that way it's up to date on their Huddle profile. Because what we do is we also send these coaches their Huddle profile link, which takes them to their page, has their name, has all of the other things in it, a picture of them, and it has all the highlights on there. It'll have their junior highlight on there. It'll have, any sophomore highlights they may have if they were playing on the varsity as a sophomore, and then it'll have their week to week. And that's important. So now I hope that it makes sense. And again, please understand that this is not something I would expect the kids to do on their own, but they're going to have to put a little bit of effort and energy into it to make this thing work. Good to go? So next, okay, this is this year's senior profile prospect sheet. This is Anthony. And this is something that I sent out after the season was over. Again, we splashed on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then I sent this out to colleges. Now, what you guys see here is over 96 contacts that I have in the college game. And so this is all different levels. And in each one of these, I have personally talked to, emailed, had conversations with, that we send information to those guys. So what they would get in an email regularly, because I understand that sometimes they get so many emails, things can get buried down to the bottom. So I'll send these out weekly during the spring, once these kids have committed, and to not these kids, but once our class of 2024 has committed to getting ready for college next year or getting ready for the senior season, and they have a highlight film created, then we're going to start putting them in to an email, and I'll start sending emails out all spring long. Haven't done that yet because right now these college coaches are just getting off, and even some are still signing their 2023 kids. Some of our kids are still making decisions. And so with that being said, you don't want to flood their emails with stuff that they're just going to discard and push to the side as they're trying to complete their 2023 year. And so we're going to start pushing that out in another month or so. Good time to do that in the spring when we move into the spring training cycle. But again, you can see this list. And as the list grows, as I get comfortable a little more or get to know more people, I put them in there and they're in the email database. They're on my cell phone. It's a little bit tough at times, texting over 100 some coaches, because it means I have to send a text like 4 or 5 times because I only put 20 guys in a group message. But again, you can see with Anthony has here, it has his Twitter handle, which is the @AnthonyS_66. It's got my information so they can contact me, and it's got his Huddle profile, and it has some important details. And we're going to get to that most important detail that I think helps our kids have the greatest opportunity to play or be in the next level opportunity in college, which is that GPA. Any questions there? Please, all means, people, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And then again, I'm hoping that this information, although it's going to be a lot, but it also be broad enough that if we need to come back and sit down and talk individually as a family, I will certainly do that too. But my idea is to hopefully give you guys a good understanding of what we're doing and what we should be preparing for as we move on. All right, so this website here, I'm not going to go to. My hope is that when we get off of here, I'll get everybody's emails and know who's in the meeting tonight. And I'm going to send the PowerPoint slides to you so you guys can review it again and you can use these type of resources. So this one here, for example, is the ncsasports.org. All right. And that is a popular recruiting site. And I'll get questions from coaches or players a lot about, Coach, I got this call from this guy from the NCSA. And, it's awesome. And I would never tell a kid not to do that or use that type of resource. The more resources we can use, the more opportunities our kids can get in front of coaches to talk to people about getting exposure, the better it's going to be for them. And so I don't discourage them from that. However, these agencies do charge money. And I know that we're limited right now as a program on what we understand the process to be like, because we're not able to experience it from another program down the street. All of us have been here together for the most part since you started high school. And so we get a very narrowed understanding of what this process looks like. And you may not realize that what we do for our kids is in many cases a whole lot more than other schools. And that's not the brag or boast. That's my responsibility. We believe in that. But I get that from college coaches a lot, how proud they are and how great it is to work with us because of how ready our kids are and how awesome it is that we push and promote our kids. And so these type of organizations are good and they'll be an asset for us. I'm not telling you that it's mandatory though, that you do that and put your money there because we are already covering that. They're going to send an email out to a database of colleges too. The thing is that they're getting an email they're sending an email out along with how many other people buy into this company. And so what happens is that college is getting an email with how many different kids in it from how many different locations and how many of those kids are actually viable or possible candidates to be able to be eligible to come to their school. And so a lot of times, and again, speaking from where I was when I was at University of Maryland, even though it seems like a little bit of time ago, from all the college coaches I talk about, these big recruiting agency groups, unless they're personally connected with somebody behind the wheels of that database, they just put it in the junk mailbox because it's just, they're inundated. What they want to see is something from the coaches. They want to see the kids connect with them on social media. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And so this is all about properly promoting ourselves. This site here, ncsasports.org, is phenomenal with giving you insights on what the recruiting process looks like and what are some of the do's and don'ts. I would encourage you guys to jump on there and check it out. I have an example. To the right here is something I pulled from their site. And what it is that is exactly the way they would prescribe you to set up your social media account, your Twitter account, just like this. And they go into talking about what content should be in there. And so you can see what they have here on this, important things that kids don't realize. And we've talked to them about this, but just simply the name. They want you to put your real name, an easily findable name, a name that they can be searched up easily, not some crazy code name, right? You're talking about promoting your brand and being professional. And I want you, truth be told, to understand that everything we're talking about here is how we can create separation from everybody else. There are some great young men on this call right now. I know that, and parents have done a great job raising them up. I love them. But the truth be told is there's a lot of great men in the world. There's a lot of great men that can run, tackle, jump, catch, throw. A lot of them. Even some of them got great grades. I mean, really great grades. What do we do to separate our kids? Every single thing is combed over. When they're talking about making a financial investment in our players, and I'm not even talking about scholarships, I'm talking about coming into a school to recruit a kid takes cost and energy. When they're going to make that commitment to do that for a kid, they want to make sure they're not missing. And so we want to make sure that when they come here, that we've got recruitable kids, not kids looking to be recruited, not kids who are looking to be the coolest. Trust me, the coolest kids are the ones that are going to the next level and achieving their goals. And so you can see those things. You can see, bing, that guy's got a great GPA, all right? That guy's got his picture up here, easy identifiable picture. He doesn't have a backsplash or a headline photo. That could be easily a team photo, all right? They're going to go through and they're going to clone through the Twitter account and they're going to look at what things you post. And some of our kids, honestly, this group of class 2023 weren't on Twitter. And I had to show them how to do that. Why is Twitter a source? Because Twitter, you can direct message coaches and they can DM you back on Twitter. And they're on Twitter. They're watching. This is a way that they can see who you are when you're not on the field, who you are when you're not in front of the coach. And then they can communicate through that direct messaging because there are windows of time in which they cannot talk to you through cell phone or through calls or through email. Now, our young men can contact and talk to anybody. You call University of Maryland and the coach answers, our young men can talk to them, but they can't call you at certain times of the year. But they can direct message you through Twitter and they can connect with you that way. And honestly, that's how they start looking and considering whether you're really serious about their school. I'll give you an example. Anthony really liked a school out in Ohio. It was College of Notre Dame. Not the College of Notre Dame. It was a small Division II school that plays in that conference, the Mountain East, which is the same conference that Frostburg's in and actually the Mountain West, and Shepherd used to be in, and he liked him, and Anthony really liked him, but that coach wasn't going to invest the time and energy to leave Ohio and come all over here to recruit him, even though he was reaching out to Anthony and liked his film, liked his GPA, because Anthony didn't necessarily show the same love back. And Anthony's reason behind it was because, I'm not sure I want to go that far. And that's okay. And we talked to Anthony about, okay, let's be upfront and honest with these guys that this is something that's not going to work out for you, because in your world of what you want to get out of college, this is not a priority. The priority is you want to be closer to home, not playing Division II. So those are some instances in that. But anyway, that's a great resource. We're going to go to another great resource here. All right. The NCAA.org. Obviously, that's an important site. On this site, it talks about how you register for the clearinghouse. The NCAA clearinghouse, which is mandatory for any college-bound athlete that is going to be scholarship eligible from the athletic department of their institution that they're going to. So this is not a responsibility for those who are playing Division III, because Division III doesn't give athletic merit or athletic money to their student athletes. This is for Division II, FCS, and FBS. And so when you are going to go there, you need to get this done. And there's a different set of rules that apply for those kids. Now, the GPA also changes for those kids. If you're going to be a scholarship type player, then in some cases, your GPA doesn't need to be off the rails, doesn't have to be unbelievably good to get into school. We could talk about, the Isaiah Foote. But Isaiah Foote, although he was able to eventually get the minimum requirements, which was a 2.3 GPA, which is a 2.3 GPA, is a 77% high school average. Again, listen to me. This is a key point. You're going to hear me drive home many times a night. The minimal NCAA requirement to play athletics in college coming out of high school is a 77%, which is a 2.3 GPA converted to that 4.0 scale. And it used to be, and I believe they're coming back to it, which could make the SAT come into play for some schools, but I'm not sure all of them are going to use it. And he had to have a 900 or 920 SAT to go along with that to be NCAA eligible. And oh, by the way, that wasn't his entire cumulative GPA for all of his classes. That was his top 10 core credits. Only his maths, only his sciences, only his social studies, only his Englishes, his foreign languages. It did not include health, gym, art, none of that. It's like your top 10 classes. Now, he fortunately did a whole lot of makeup. We got him into some classes again as a senior year. He did some summer school stuff over 2 summers and got himself to a 3.0 from a 1.89 in quick time. And also got him in SET tutoring and went from like a 920 or 860, excuse me, first time taking it, to his third time taking, getting 1150. More than successful. But it wasn't about getting him into college just so he could get in and get the minimal requirements to be an athlete at East Carolina. It was about getting him college ready. I didn't want him to go down there and become a crutch. I didn't want him to be a problem in the team room because the coach have chased him from class to class. I want him to go down there and be successful on the field, be successful in the classroom, prove that he can do things academically, show to himself that he can do the things he needs to do to be successful in the classroom, so he can focus on playing football when it's football time, and he knows how to focus in the classroom when it's supposed to be classroom. So again, great resource, good information here about all the things you need to do to be college ready from the NCAA standpoint. Any questions there? Awesome. The next, this is an important one that we can't forget about. Student aid and the FAFSA form. The FAFSA form is important. When we get into the process next year at the end of the season, and our guys are really heavy into talking about which school they're going to choose to play at as a senior, and this piece has got to be taken care of as soon as possible, because these institutions we'll be looking at will be partnering the scholarship money they could be giving them based upon scholastics or academics with the financial money that you could get, the financial money you could get with the federal state saying, or the federal government saying that you need to get this much money based upon what your income is and things like that. So the sooner you get this done in their senior year, the better it's going to be. Something you probably could try to do during the summer with these kids that are going to be class of 2024, so it's out of the way. Getting it done sooner than later is huge, because then when we send these kids into these schools and these schools start coming back to us and our kids apply, which at this point right now is so good, because when we apply to these colleges, most times they're all on the Common App. You don't have to pay like we used to. So these kids could apply to 15 schools and not pay a single cent because they're on the Common App, which we'll talk much later on. And then in the Common App, they've dropped in, I want to apply to Shenandoah, I want to apply to Pitt, I want to apply to this school. They get that. They look on there, they see your scores, they see your GPA, they see any reference letters you have. All right. And they start to stick it into the system and they see you applied for FAFSA. Well, they can quickly turn around and tell you what it's going to cost to come to their school, which almost 100% of the time is never the amount we see online. All right. So FAFSA was another important thing that you guys have to start thinking about here in the future. Now, the controllables, you've talked about some things that we look at, and these are the things that we got to have ready when these college coaches start talking to us. And so here they are. The college coaches have come, they've seen the film, you guys have done the FAFSA, you guys understand what it takes to be recruitable. We've got the Twitter account squared away, we got all these other things squared away. You're part of a really great program. And because of that, these colleges know that they're coming here to see some really great kids. Now they're going to step in front of a coach here at Calvert High. You know, me, Coach Johnson, whoever's available. Most times it's me, Coach Johnson's in the meetings a lot. What are the things that we can control? Because there's some things we can't control. We can control our academics. We can control our energy and effort in the community, and we can control the athletics to a degree, right? And when I say about that, we can control how much we put into these things. And this is so important because, like I said, now when it comes to this school, when a coach comes to the school and is speaking to me and speaking to our player, they're going to evaluate everything that's said. They're going to look at the transcript. The transcript won't lie. The academic piece is what it is. We can't fake it. Now, there could be a story behind why maybe your grades weren't so great at this point in your life, but maybe it's shown over your second and third quarter of your junior year that you got your act together because the first quarter something happened in your life that kind of put you in a bad place. Who knows? They can see that. But the transcript for your grades speaks to that. All right? Community. Well, this is where the coach comes in. And this is why it's important that you understand that the recruiting agencies and things like that and all these things that we may do independently are important, but everything's going to come back to the coach. And I've got to make sure that we represent ourselves the way we should, that I help represent these players the way they should. And we've built a pretty good relationship with the coaches that I know in the coaching community, and we have some integrity. And so they know what they're getting with our players. They know that I want our players to find a place that's going to take care of our kids as well as we've tried to take care of them while they're here. And so they appreciate that. And they've never been disappointed with any kids that we've had go to college or the next level. But the community piece is important because there's a place where we can separate ourselves from everybody else. You know, our kids will do mulch sales. Our kids will use youth camps and help other players. Our kids play other sports. That's important. Our kids are working out in the weight room with a coach, strength coach, who's got college background in strength and performance training. You know, them knowing my pedigree, my background, what I've done means a whole lot when they talk to me and they say, hey, is this young man in the weight room? I'm like, Coach, he's a dog. He's kicking butt in the weight room. He's squatting this. He's doing this. Coach, I know you go 3 times a week. How often is he there? Well, he made 86% of the workouts this entire season. Oh, that kid, he also plays lacrosse. Oh, so he wasn't in the weight room? No, man, he played lacrosse and he come in to work out twice a week after lacrosse practice. Those things speak volumes to the integrity and the character of the young man they're talking to. Huge stuff. And of course, when they come in, I've told the kids this many times before, they're going to give a shake to the kid's hand, and they're going to take their off hand and they're going to cup the back of his tricep, or they're going to put their hand on his shoulder, and they're sizing him up. They want to know if he's putting the work in. You know, the other thing that goes into it as well, which is why I discourage our kids from putting their weights and heights on their social media, on their huddle account, is because of this. When the coaches come to our school, they're always pleasantly surprised, because what they find in our athletes is generally a lot better than what they anticipated. Why? For some reason, there's a propensity for people in the high school ranks to blow up things. Oh, my kid's got a 4.0 and he had a 3.7. I don't even know why he would say that. Or my kid's 6 foot and he's 5'10". My kid's 190 and he's 175. And so we don't do that. These guys are going to come in and I'm telling them he's this height, he's this speed, he benches this, his grades are this, he does this, because we are, again, building integrity. And when they're evaluating me, I want them to know they believe and can trust anything that I say. And that's going to be reflected upon the way these kids are raised up in a program that they spend how many hours a week with, in season and out. They're knowing that they're spending as much time with me as they possibly can as a high school football coach. And so they're going to expect that kid is being raised up through the program in the same way that they hear from me. And so I'm that first line of reflection of what that kid is. And so, you know, when they come in, all of a sudden they're like, man, that's a good looking kid. So he is what I told you, coach. You know, and that's just the way it is. Athletics, a big deal here, right? Obviously it's about athletics, but here's the deal. It's not about the stats, and it may not be about the highlight video, right? It's about what we do to accomplish what we do on that film, what we do to accomplish the success in the stat column. Do we play multiple sports? That's okay if you don't, but if we do play multiple sports, how are we doing there? How are we as a character guy in the locker room, not just for football, but when you're playing baseball or basketball or wrestling? Oh, do you still work out? Do you work out at all with the team? Are you consistent in working out? And when you sign up to come to the workouts 3 days a week, Coach Sneade, are you in the weight room for the 2.5 hours, and are you banging? And are you leading that group? Or are you one of the guys that Coach Sneade has to always pull in to get you refocused and repurposed in? These things matter. But these are the criteria, the biggest things that we look at and try and develop our players here. It's pretty familiar because these are the standards and pillars that we have in our program that are looked at from college coaches. And so we're going to move into this stuff a little bit quicker. Any questions here? All right, here we go. So the controllables, once again, concentrate areas for optimal readiness upon graduation, academics, your GPA, your class selection, testing, college boards, the clearinghouse. You've heard me talk about that before. Community, all right, service learning opportunities, the school and community involvement, leadership, athletics, accountability. You see all those things here. Again, I'll be sending this stuff out to you. Being a great teammate is huge. A great example of a guy who was a self-made man who, honestly, if you looked at the athletic attributes, if you looked at his film, he would not have been a guy that you would have thought, especially coming as a freshman, would have been a college-bound athlete. And that's Cody Daniels. Cody Daniels is a great example of it. And I love Cody, but he did not come in as the best athlete. He did not leave Calvert High as the best athlete. But he ended up getting $35,000 a year to go play football at Shenandoah. Well, he had a 3.98 GPA. He had a lot more A's than B's. He also never missed a workout in the weight room. He would do the extra stuff with me, catch 350 balls a week, just because he knew he wasn't a natural in catching a football. He came into high school at about 125 pounds, couldn't bench the bar, and then left at 205 pounds. He ran track going into his senior year because he wanted to get faster and he wanted to expose himself to some of the other coaches and get to know them a little bit more. When I went and talked to them about Cody, they were like, he's a perfect guy. He's a perfect guy for our program. He may not be on the field right away, but you know what? He's a guy that we know he's going to be a great locker room guy. He's going to be a great teammate. He's going to be a guy that we will not have to chase to go to class because he's proven he's a good academic kid. He's going to be a guy that we don't have to chase to be in the weight room. He's proven to be a weight room guy. And he said, all these things go into us making decisions. This guy, we want to build a program around, not because he's a great football player. He is a good football player, but he's a good football player because he does all these other things, not just because he can run, jump, or do whatever. And of course, Cody's goal this past season was to make the travel squad. 120 guys on the team, 120 guys in the team, a program. And he made the travel squad, which meant he was part of that 52 guys that were able to travel to games as a freshman. He was able to do that. A pretty exciting thing for him. So let's go ahead. So the academics, all right? So real quick, just want to lay this out for you guys. There's a difference between what you guys see and what our kids see on their report cards than what the school systems and college level look at. So if you look at the first column here, these are scale that sometimes you see in some private schools, even some high schools have it, especially out in the Midwest. A+, A minus scale. Okay, the second column here is the percentile. So when you see an A+, what percentile is that? And that's where we come into, right? At Calvert High School, we use this percentile ranking scale. So you see that 97 to 100 is an A+. All right. The more important column is this third column here. This is the regular GPA, the 4.0 scale. Coaches are so good at this. They're going to come in and they'll be able to take our transcripts right away and translate them to whether or not this kid has a 4.0, a 3.5, or whatever, because they've got this thing down. They've mastered this. But you can see for us, to get a 4.0 is not just to get an A. It's a 93 to 100. So a 93% to 100 is a 4.0. Now, I want to go through something here that to me is concerning as a coach. But I get why we do it. But it does not get our guys ready for college. Our school system says that down here, this 70 is what we need to have to be eligible to play sports. In high school, in Calvert County, you can have a 70% GPA, 70% average, and no more than one failure and be able to play high school sports. We'll scroll over here. If we are consistently getting 70s, we are going to average a 1.7 GPA. Please let that sink in. If we are consistently getting 70 averages, we are going to have a 1.7 GPA. That doesn't get our foot in the door. Now, we could get into a trade school, and that's perfectly fine. We could get into a trade school. We could go in the military. We could do a lot of things. And this is where we're starting to take this and tie this into being ready for whatever the next big steps are after high school. I don't care if you want to play football or not. My job and duty to our kids is to help them be the best human beings they can be. And moreover, help them have as many options as they possibly can have. Obviously, if I have 4.0 and I'm hitting that weight room hard and I'm 6'4" and I can jump through the roof and I'm 235 pounds and I run a 4.4 and I'm at every community event and I go to church, obviously that guy can go and do whatever he wants anywhere he wants. I get it. And I want to have that type of choice for anybody else. But those things that I mentioned, some of them we can control, some of them we can't. So where can we make a difference? Well, the grades, we can make a difference. And it doesn't mean that every kid in here can be a Cody Daniels, get a 4.0, or be Anthony Stevenson, get a 3.5 and earn $35,000 a year to go to Bridgewater and play football there. Or be a Carter Gossip and earn $45,000 a year who had a 3.3 and he's only going to pay $5,000 a year because of the FAFSA and because of the merit-based money he gets to go to Shenandoah. I get that. That's something that we all can get to. We can get to that. And you know what? It'd be okay if those guys decided not to play football. They have the choice. It'd be okay if they decide to go somewhere else. Maybe Jason Kenney makes up his mind. He wants to go to a trade school. And academically, he can't get into those schools. But he can get to the trade school or the apprenticeship school in Newport News. And he can build nuclear submarines and nuclear aircraft carriers. We've got that connection. All he has to do is pull the plug and go. And that will be good for him. They had a great football season. They went 9-1 this year down in Norfolk, Virginia. But if he doesn't choose that and wants to go to the Union right away, great. I want him to be able to do that with great success. So I say all that because if we're looking at the bare minimum to get into a college, let's just say we have the blessing and the opportunity to play at a scholarship NCAA school, Division II, FCS, or FBS. They're going to say you have to have a 2.3 GPA at the bare minimum. 2.3 GPA with your core classes. Going into your senior year, they're going to take your 10 best core classes from your freshman, sophomore, and junior year combined, 10, your math, your science, your English, and they're going to find out whether you have a 2.3. And in order to have a 2.3 average, you're going to have to average 77% in those classes. That's just to be NCAA eligible. That doesn't necessarily get you merit-based money, which is what Anthony Stevenson and Carter Goshev and Cody Daniels got. Is there any questions with that? Because this is the important stuff here. Any questions on that right now? And I know for some of you guys, this might be the first time you're online with me this spring because things are getting really close. But this is conversations we've had with our kids since they get here as freshmen. Trust me, you all know how important we make the academic piece because this can open doors and it can close doors. Simple mistakes that we'll go over in a grade or a report card can change the trajectory of where we can land ourselves. And we're talking the difference in a 3.2 to a 3.4 could be $10,000 a year. Seriously. So let's go into this a little farther. We went through this a little bit. We talked about the number of credits necessary to graduate. Again, that's the minimum. The NCAA, this is where I talked about the 2.3 and 10 core classes, SAT score over 980, right? Again, the SAT is not something that's regularly used nowadays. I think because of the COVID thing, they knew a lot of kids had a gap there in understanding how to perform for that test. It sounds like they're going to start bringing that back next year, but not all schools will, and they still may make the test optional. The bottom line, though, is how we perform on that PSAT and SAT can only help us in a college optional format. If a school is going to look at the SAT score and the PSAT score, and it is good enough, and it helps us look at a situation where maybe academically we weren't as sharp our 9th grade year, but we got our act together our sophomore and junior year. And that's going to get us in the school. But all of a sudden you show that you have taken school seriously. You sat down for the SAT or the PSAT or the ACT, and we end up just doing really, really well on it. Maybe you took it 2 or 3 times. Make an investment. Some of you guys, it might be free. Take it twice. You get it done, and you score a decent score on it. That could weigh in, and they could say, okay, he is college ready. He has proven that he's worked hard in school. He had a little bit of a skate there in his 9th grade year, but he got his act together. Hey, you never know. It helps. So we go here to the next thing. All right, so we are talking about the use of eligibility for an NCAA. I talk about why that is the case. If you use the NCAA eligibility standard, even though we may not be at the University of Maryland, we may not be there, we could end up at a Shenandoah, which is winning 8-9 ball games a year and having great football. All right, it does guarantee you're going to graduate from high school. It will guarantee that you're going to be able to have a great competitive high school resume, and you'll be ready for high school or for career readiness after school. You're eligible for junior colleges, you're eligible for military enlistment, eligible for trades, trade school, and eligible for the NAIA schools, which is another section of schools that are generally ranked about Division II level. All right, so that's what we do if we follow this NCAA requirements, which is that 2.3 GPA, which is at 77%, and we do that, with the big, most important classes in our content area. Now, what does it not guarantee? What does the NCAA eligibility, which is at 2.3 GPA, 77%, what does it not guarantee? Well, it does not guarantee financial assistance for athletics. All right. Does not guarantee acceptance into all institutions of education beyond high school. Does not guarantee general acceptance into college unattached to scholarships or sports like Division I, Division II do. So as I say, Shenandoah, which is where Cody and Carter is not committed to go to. Bridgewater, which is where Anthony's going to. Where Stevie's going to go to, where I think this week he's going to announce. Where Aaron's going to go to, which he'll announce in a couple of weeks. Those schools are not athletic scholarship-based schools, and they are highly competitive schools. They're going to be playing at elite level. All right, a couple of them are playing in the NCAA tournament each year for Division III. Salisbury has been competing for the Stag Bowl opportunity many years, only to come up short to Wisconsin Whitewater or Mount Union. The truth be told, though, Those schools can't give athletic money. They give merit-based money. Merit-based money. That's a competitive field. Again, looking at that film, going back to the coach and talking to him, getting that information about how this kid is inside their program, inside the school, and then meeting that kid face to face and shaking his hand, sizing him up, will help entice that coach to go back to his school and find out from his administration how much money they can get based upon this kid's merit, academics, and who he is as a person. Now, you take a kid who plays sports and is going to go to Salisbury, go to Shenandoah, and go to Bridgewater, and is going to be an elite, high-level football player for their school, going to be a great community guy. He's proven that. And as a 3.5, they're getting more money to help them out with their education than the one who's just going to Bridgewater to get a degree. It's not an athletic scholarship, is it? No, it's not. But there is value in our kids going to college and being able to be beyond college ready, whatever the next big step into the professional world after college, or whatever they do after college, be it work in profession or go to trades, whatever it is. There is a lot of stock and merit in a kid going there and also playing a sport. The networking possibilities, because now they're talking about when they graduate as a senior, they might be one of 20 kids in a class of 3,000 maybe that graduate from that university that fall or that spring or that winter with a degree and played sport. So when the coaches that are the players that have played there before, like for example, right now, Salisbury is strongly attached to Atlanta Falcons because the coach there played at Salisbury. Their facility has been ramped up. Their locker room, their tower, their home field side bleachers has all been revamped and built up by the gentleman who used to play there, is now with the Falcons. Guess what he does when he wants somebody to work as an intern in their organization? He comes back to his school. Coach Wood has been there for years. Years. He's had a long career at Salisbury. He trusts Coach Wood. Coach Wood's going to say, okay, in my program, we've got this guy and this guy and this guy. Great guys. 3.0 college students, great football players, great community guys. These are the guys you want to talk to. Let's go. Salisbury graduates roughly 2,500 kids every year. Only 20 are football players. That guy comes to those 20. So when a school thinks about that, yeah, they're going to help take care of those kids who are playing sports and going to school and doing them all real well. So the NCAA standard eligibility is good enough to guarantee the things on the left column, but I don't want to sell ourselves short. If we can get more academically, we should try to go in and do that. So again, the academics, we talked about that. Let's go to the data. Can I change things up a little bit and kind of take you guys through a report card as an example so I can show you guys the differences in that? Is everybody okay with that?
Let's roll.
All right, here we go. So I'm going to bring over to you guys an Excel spreadsheet. Everybody see an Excel spreadsheet now? All right. So real quick, the top one. This is no kids' grades. I don't know. I just create this in my own head. All right. But we're looking at this real quick. This is their freshman year. In their freshman year, the first quarter, they played football. And they did really well, considering what the responsibilities and academics say you should do to play sports in high school. And considering they're freshmen coming in after not having the type of freedom they have in high school, getting to pick some classes they get to pick, having sport, rigorous schedule, that's a pretty successful fall for most people, right? I mean, we're looking at a kid getting 80 in English, 82 in history, and 89 in biology, okay? And the other classes, he's got mid-C's, and that's a 78.1 average. For a lot of kids in our program, that's like a successful fall. Pretty good. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, 78.1 average, that has the kid just over a 2.3 to 2.4, 2.5 GPA, right there. All right. Again, a lot to celebrate there, though. A lot to celebrate. Okay. But I want you to understand, and what I'm going to show you as we move through this whole landscape of grades here for his 9th grade year, the differences in what I'm going to show you down here from row 12 and below. So second quarter, We see this a lot, especially with the kids who don't participate in a winter sport or consistently reach out and train with us in the weight room. When they lose that structure, we see a dip in their grades. Now, these red numbers, don't pay too much attention to them because they're going to correlate to what I have down here in red numbers. But what I want you to follow is the differences in the blue, the yellow, and this salmon color, if you will. The blue indicates that these grades are over a 3.0. Notice that the 80 is not, because an 80 is a 2.7. Again, I told you guys that sliding scale is different. 4.0 scale takes our GPAs and moves it into where the colleges look at it as, and an 80 is a 2.7. An 82 is a 2.7. An 83 is a 3.0. So I regularly tell our kids, in the first quarter, I would have grabbed these kids up and said, look, you've got an 82. Right now, if the quarter ended, you have an 82. It's a 2.7. Go to the teacher, retake one test that you got a 71 on and get a 76. And that'll move this grade from an 82 to an 83, which changes it from a 2.7 to a 3.0. That's how they have to understand it. And that's what we work hard to do. So you can see how this thing continues through here. And you can see that here's the final average of the quarter. We have this blue right here, this blue right here. These two grades are over a 3.0. These two grades, these yellow grades, are less than a 3.0, but over a 2.3. The beige grades are below a 2.3. And again, 72 didn't seem like a bad grade. 75 didn't seem like a bad grade for some. You know, for the school system, that's 5 points more than what you need as an average. But it's below the 2.3 average. And let's also note that when you look at the quality points in your report card, the QPs, the quality points speak to the weight of that class. It's going to be higher if it's an AP class. AP classes drive your GPA if you do well in them. But we're not even going to go there. If it's a half-year class, a semesterized class, which health is, then they cut that grade in half. So you didn't get 37%. You got a 73%, but it's worth 0.5 points instead of 1, which is why these other grades, when you have an average of an 82 in English, it's an 82 quality points. That's what that means when you look at your report card. And so team sports, oh, my GPA is great. I got an 88 or an 85. Well, that's true. But in your fourth quarter, that made a difference and gave you a 76 GPA. But overall, it just weighs 44 points. And what we have here is we have one class worth 1 point, another class 1 point. You have 6 classes worth 1 point and 2 classes each worth 0.5. Again, giving you 7 credits for the year. Adding all this up, dividing by 7 gives you a 76%. Now, when I take each one of these classes and I put them in a 4.0 scale, again, I wouldn't say that this is a horrible report card. Trust me, we got young men in our program that for them to achieve this is quite a feat because they got a lot of things going on. And we try. And Miss Valentin and our resource department through the student athlete academic support team do a great job of trying to stay on our kids and help them. And some of them are overcoming a lot. I think that they can still do better and do more. Heck, we're looking for overcomers. We're looking for kids who can push beyond and make it beyond their obstacles or whatever feats they may have in front of them. So truth be told, 76 not bad, but at the end of the day, this gives us the 2.15. Kid could play 3 years of football, 4 years of football, and be great. And he'll be on a football field every year. But then he shows up at the end of his high school career and 2.15 doesn't get it done. And many of our kids here at Calvert High School, and I don't care if they played somewhere else, if they went to Riken or they went to Matha, the kids that we have here that are here right now, okay, they may not be Division I players, where 2.3, that NCAA requirement, that, if you will, that they require them to have to be eligible to play their sport doesn't mean anything. It's the Division IIIs, Division IIs. And I can't tell you the number on that list of 96 schools that I showed you guys earlier, the number of coaches that call me up, they don't even watch film. Moms and dads, they don't watch film. They call me up and they say, Coach, you got any kids that are 3.5 or better? Because they can only recruit the kid that's 3.5. Their school is such a good high academic school, they can only bring in a kid that's 3.5 or 3.3. They won't even look at the film until they know that kid's a 3.5, which means that we have a class, let's just say in the state of Maryland, we have 1,000 football players, but only the top 10% have 3.5s. Out of those 1,000 football players, some of them could be Division I guys. Like I said, 6'4", 235, can jump through, run 4.6s, but he has a 2.3. That kid can't play at a Washington Jefferson Division III school in Pennsylvania. That's $70,000 a year. He can't play there. They wouldn't even talk to him. As good as he is, couldn't get him into school. And so they come to me and say, Coach, do you have any guys with 3.5? Any guys 3.3? And I say, yes, I do. Or no, I don't. But if I say, yes, I do, then those kids have an opportunity that the other 900 kids in the state of Maryland don't get because they're just a 3.0 or they're just a 2.3. And that's going to be true whether we're applying for a job or we're going to the trades or we're going to military. These things matter. They are the most important resume builder that you can create in high school. That and the repertoire of who you become through the things that people like your parents and these coaches try to do to help you become the best version of yourself. So let's go ahead and look at the same report card done a little differently. So I want you to look at the first quarter. First quarter. Again, not too bad. But that 89, folks, that 89, listen to me. If you go back to the core cap GPA, look, I'm showing it to you right now. That 89 is a 3.3. Could that kid have done something? Instead of getting an 89, instead of saying, Coach, I just want to go down and play basketball during lunch. I don't want to go sit with a teacher and retake a test when these teachers let you retake it 4,000 times. And all you had to do is retake a test. Or maybe you forgot to turn an assignment because you were out of school. And all you got to do is turn an assignment in and you get a 90, which changes that 3.3 to a 3.7. So that's why when you go back to this, I showed that in the first quarter, you found a way in the first quarter, change that 89 to a 90. Now, it didn't look like a big difference here, but look what it did, 78.1 to a 78.3. Not a big difference, but it does create a trend in who we are as people and what we're trying to do to get the best out of our education and have the best opportunities and the most choices when we leave here. Second quarter, okay? We decide to stay in weight training or we played a sport and we stay structured and we focused in the school. We dug in. We had integrity. We didn't just do well during the fall. And so we take that 79, the 79, which is a 2.3. And all you had to do is get an 80 to get a 2.7. But you take it to an 83. You do 2 assignments over again. You study a little bit and you get 83. So it takes that 79, which is in that yellow zone because it's less than a 2.3 or it's right at a 2.3. And we make it a 3.0 by moving it to an 83%. And you can see that we're doing this all the way down the line. And it changed that second quarter. But just changing this history grade from a 79 to an 83, moving that 68 in algebra to a 74. And again, maybe algebra is a tough subject for you. You're doing your best. And that's where you need to be during lunch instead of down there in that daggone gym or hanging out with your friends during lunch. Remember, we are who we spend most of our time with. Pick your 5 people in your life. Find out who those people are outside of your parents, outside of your coaches. Who are the top 5 people you spend your time with and what are they doing? If their grades aren't better than you, then your grades won't go up. If they're not making better decisions than you, then you won't make better decisions than them. You have to be around people who are going to elevate you. So if you want to be a great student, start hanging out with kids who spend time during lunch studying or going to a teacher every day. Doesn't mean you can't play basketball or eat lunch with your friends, but you have 2 lunch periods. Get after it. I don't know. I'm sorry. Don't mean on a soapbox, folks. But anyway, you can see here, again, changing a 67, changing a 71 to a 73 and a 73. Not that big of a difference. Changing a 68 to a 76 changes us from a 74.9 to a 78.6. And you can see that I'm talking about little small incremental changes in our grades throughout the year. Not big deals, but you can see how they change the grades for the entire quarter then. Look at the top scores here. 82 for average for English, 81 for history, 67 for algebra 1, 84 for bio, 69 for art and design, 72 for intro engineering, 37, which is again 73 for health, and an 88 for team sports. Gave us a 2.15 76 GPA. Look down here. These small changes moved us to a 79 and changed us from being in the beige area, which did not make us NCAA recruitable, and moved us into the yellow area, which is not a 3.0. In fact, it's a 2.59, which puts us closer to the C+ range, mid to high 70s, a 2.59. I mean, it's a significant difference. And now when you start stacking your 9th grade year on top of your 10th grade year, and you start making these changes and trying to make the small changes in each class and taking that serious, we can move this GPA to a 3.0. I've seen it happen. Like I said, Isaiah Foote, going into his junior year, Isaiah Foote had a 1.9 GPA. Coming out of his junior year, because we made him retake a class, he had a 2.4. Going out of summer school, because I had him take 4 classes during summer school. Not classes he failed, but I wanted him to change a D in his freshman year to an A. Change this class to an A. He did that. He got 3 A's and 1 B. Moved his GPA for his 10 core classes to, it was 3.0 going into his summer session. He looked at me and said, well, I don't need to do anything. No, you're still going to go to, that was actually coming to his fall because he took that during his going into his senior year. So then guess what? During the fall, we now took him and put him back into biology, which is a 9th grade class, because he got a C- in biology. He took biology again as a senior, got an A. By the time he left high school, he was a 3.09 guy, 1150 GPA, and was more than ready to go. And he had the reasons. He had a really tough home situation. I won't get into his personal business, but he had the reasons for why he wasn't doing well. But he eventually decided he was going to do that. Guys, all the players, let me just tell you what he was willing to do, because this was so serious to him. He handed his phone to me every day for 3 months because his phone was a distract. He played basketball and he lifted weights. Then he went with one of our student athlete economic support team leaders and spent 2 hours with them at their house 4 days a week, the entire spring, concentrating on how to be a better student, not just doing schoolwork. We're talking about rewriting papers over and over and over again. Went to Spanish tutoring, went to SAT tutoring. He committed to this stuff. It's not something that we could have drug him through and pulled him along. He had to want to do that, and he did so. He blindly followed us in a direction that we were trying to take him in because we knew where he could get. And I'm looking at you guys, and I love you all, and I believe in you guys too. You guys have to want this more than we do, more than your parents do. And that's going to be indicated based upon what you decide to do in school. Isaiah decided to change his friends up. Isaiah decided to do different things. I mean, who else would be playing basketball and still hitting the weight room? Who else would be going in the weight room, working out, and then going home with a couple people, old fogies, and do schoolwork every day? Who else would do that? No one else is doing that. He had to step out and step up because he wanted something that no one else around him could get. No one else around him wanted to get. You got to remember, there's 10,000 guys that can run the football and catch and throw and pass. You're playing against them in 77. You're playing against them in the fall. What makes you stick out? What makes you better than everybody else? And I'm not talking in an arrogant way. I'm talking about what makes you unique. What makes you recruitable? What makes a college coach come in and say, I want you? That's that. We're going to move on to the next slide real quick, because I know we're getting ready to wind down. So the controllables, we can control the community. We can control the grades. You know, we provide opportunities for the community. We got the mulch sale, things like, and you're like, what is a mulch sale? A mulch sale is a service opportunity that we all know is important, but it also is something that we can sell. I mean, not everybody does this. Not everybody lays down mulch. Not everybody goes to Charlotte Hall. We're able to go back to the VA home and visit the veterans. And I know that you guys aren't doing it to build a resume. It is who you are. And that's what makes me excited to be around you guys. You're awesome people. I was up here today watching the first day of spring sports start off. And I'm watching young men that I coach who are out there watching their friends start off the day. Domain was out there. I had a couple other young ball players out there who are being managers of the softball team. I love that. That's phenomenal stuff. That speaks to the type of young men that you are and who you will be in the future. It says that what your parents are doing with you is paying off. It says that what we're doing with you is paying off. These are the things that we do in the community that separates us from everybody else. Are you leaders in a program? Are you one of the leadership council? Are you a captain? Not just a captain and we say put seal on your chest, but legitimately, are you a leader? Are you leading guys in a direction to uncommon greatness? Or are you allowing them to pull you away? When you're in the weight room, do you tell these guys to step up and get the reps in? Or you fool around, diggy jack around with them? Or are you the guy who steps into the weight room when other guys are getting in their cars and going home? Or are you the guy that pulls people out of the classrooms and say, let's go, we're going to get our study on because you need to get your grades up because 70% isn't good enough anymore. Those are the things that they're looking for. Those are things you can control. Community, we talk more about that stuff, volunteering through church, volunteering through the program, joining other extracurricular activities, playing sport. All right, this increases the we versus me mentality. This is a great resume builder for your college applications. It builds community, helps others. It builds a legacy here. We are building on a program that has been laid down by guys who before you came here and did it right, who cared about one another. And heck, this past season was a great reflection of that. We didn't make it to where we made it. We didn't have the success and the fun on the field if it wasn't for the fact that you guys loved each other the way you did. Athletics, the controllables again here. All right, the biggest fan when it comes to reaching beyond your high school, especially college, that should be your coach. He should be your greatest advocate. So what does that mean? You're not here to please me, but you're here to do what we're asking you to do. Because if you do what we ask you to do, we'll be able to translate that to the coaches. And yes, I think sometimes what we do here is a little bit more than what you might expect from other programs. Right down to the uniformity. I mean, those things mean a lot. When a coach comes here and knows that our guys are wearing the same uniforms in the weight room we're working out, that says something to the structure and organization you guys have been growing up in. All right, but specifically, these things are important because when they come and see and talk to me, and they know this is my guy, he's done everything we've asked him to do and then beyond, because I'm going to ask you guys to do what you need to do to have the options and choices that you need to have after high school, to be able to do whatever you want to do after high school. We got to get you there, and that's our job. So if you do what I ask you to do, then we're going to have you there. But if you do more, then that's something even more special. But at the end of the day, it comes back to us. And so obviously you want to have a good standing in our program. You want to be a great teammate. You want to try to reach our expectations in our program. You want to trust the process. If you don't know, if your parents don't understand, call us and ask. If it's football, I don't care. Call me and ask. Why is my son not playing his position? Why did you call that play? I have no problem talking to you. It builds trust. And I don't assume that you guys sit up in the bleachers as parents or watch from the wherever you watch from and expect you guys just to like blindly say, oh, wow, that's just awesome. That's the way we do it. There's going to be questions, and I don't mind it. Obviously, you guys know it's not always easy being a coach. It's certainly not always easy being a player or a parent. And so if we're all trying to work together to help create the best opportunities for our kids and help them become the best version of themselves, please, let's communicate and let's build a community in which you guys feel comfortable to come to me, ask the questions you have. I can come to you, ask you the questions that I have, or we can collaborate, help push our kids to where they can go. Work hard always. Focus on the uncomfortable. Don't just do things that are easy. Don't just settle out and say, well, I got tomorrow. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. Align yourself with people that share the same desires and goals. Communicate. Be uncommonly great in the now, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. The uncontrollables. These are the things that we can't control. Size. Can't control it. To a degree, speed. And what do I mean by that? We can work hard. We got great resources around us. We've got Greg up there. He's a great guy. He does a great job developing speed. We got track coaches. We do a good job in our program developing speed. But at the end of the day, I don't care how hard Anthony Stevens worked. Anthony Stevens is not a 4-5 guy. So genetically, he has a predisposition to be a certain guy, a certain speed, a certain size. To a degree, he's got certain raw athleticism. When Aaron Touch comes in the weight room and squats, when domain squats, their flexibility and their mobility in their hips, which is a genetic thing, allows them to get lower in a way that no one else can without changing or altering their technique a little. I mean, Aaron Touch, when he squats, can get his butt on his ankles easily with a heavy load on his shoulders. That's raw athleticism. That's something not everybody can do. We can work on getting better at that, and certainly we do help our kids get to a point where they can do something close to that, but that's something natural that he has. To a degree, strength. I talked about Cody Daniels earlier. He worked his tail off, but he still wasn't a 300-pound bencher when he left, but he came into school benching the bar barely, and he graduated benching 235, 245, but he could power clean a great deal of weight, and he could squat well. But the reality at some point we need to understand is that you don't have to play Division I to play football and enjoy it. There are so many different opportunities and so much fun to be had wherever it is you want to play. And if you want to play, you do your grades and you work hard with us and you become a great citizen in our community, we will find a place for you to be. So I need you guys to focus on the controllables. Work to be the best student athletes you can be. If you think you're doing good, do better. If you got an 85, get an 87. If you got an 87, get a 90. Don't settle for 70. Don't settle for 75. Some of you guys got to finish strong. Let's get after it. All right. Focus on being the best members in our community. Give to others. Add value to the process. Knowing that when you're in that weight room and doing things great, doing things better than everybody else, it's not to show up or show out. It's about motivating others and encouraging others. Because if you're lighting that fire in yourself, the fire will be lit in others. If you're not there, how can your fire be seen? Or if you are there and you happen to be with other people who aren't doing what they should be doing, your fire is getting squelched. And then we can develop our athleticism by playing other sports, by getting in the weight room, by training with other trainers, by playing other things. All these things can happen, and these are things we can focus on. So again, I've talked about some of the things that we're responsible for. Obviously, this is part of it, educating our Cavaliers on what it takes to be highly recruitable, okay? Provide access and opportunities to 3 pillars of our program. So meaning if I want our kids to develop and be great in the community, then we need to provide opportunities for them to do that. The mulch sale coming up is a great way to do that. When we go to Charlotte Hall, is a great way to do that. When our kids work the youth camps and the way they shine is a great way to do that, because those things go on our resume. But more importantly, those opportunities give our kids a chance to stand out and lead, to be an example to the younger generations. That grows in them and makes them great people. All right. We promote our Cavaliers who are personally invested and committed to playing sports beyond high school. We do quarterly check-ins on grades. Every quarter, I check on the kids' grades. Every quarter, myself and Ms. Valentin are reaching out to our players. We encourage and spotlight, uncommon greatness, actions of uncommon greatness. We assist in building a film, but I don't think it's appropriate for me to make the film or anybody make the film for the kids. They got to get their hands dirty. Again, I'm not expecting them to understand what it completely looks like, but they've got to want to get engaged and take some ownership in what they're doing. We're going to talk about building the brand, how it looks on social media, what it should be like, what does it look like, how do I communicate with these college coaches, how do I approach these college coaches, where do I approach these college coaches, do I go to camps, do I do this, do I do showcases? We'll be there as an advocate to help educate these guys on what they need to do. Promote Cavaliers who are personally invested and committed in playing sports beyond high school. We'll connect players to programs that support the continuation of your development. So those are our commitments to your kids in this facet. Obviously, it spans way beyond this, because I'm hoping I'm helping you all build uncommonly great young men who will be great dads, great husbands. So at the end of the day, I throw a lot at you. And I hope that tonight, some of you guys had your transcripts so you could look over those as we were going through this. And so hopefully these things, as we went through the GPA calculator and stuff like that, could have enlightened you on where you need to be and what you need to do academically. If you haven't, guidance office, Miss Kruger's the lady down there. She can get you the unofficial transcript that you need to get. All right. This information here, this PowerPoint that I sent, the video of this meeting, you can ask for that by email me at sneader@calvertfootball.com or text me at my phone number 410-474-6282. I'll gladly share this with you guys. If you want a personal meeting where we can get more answers to the questions you may have, I'm open to that as well. But with that, we've kind of concluded the big piece of information that I want to get across tonight. And I'm open to any questions you guys might have. I know it's been a pretty long evening, but I know that this stuff is important and it involves the future of your young man and possibly financially could help them, gain financial resources to go to college or do whatever they want to do beyond. So I appreciate y'all's patience. I don't hold you up, but I'm here and I'll be here as long as necessary to answer any questions you guys might have.
Hey, Coach, it's Nick Lanthier here. I got a question for you.
Yep.
Great information. Love it. As always, you're the man. Now, my question is, Zay's into football, as you know, but he's also into lacrosse.
Yep.
Big. So my question is, are these other coaches as involved as you are with these colleges?
That's a good question.
So let's say Zay was going for both. Like, does he need to have two separate Twitter accounts for each sport, or?
Wow, that's a great question. No, he does not have two separate Twitter accounts for both sports. He would have one. And crazy enough too, his huddle profile, if he's in huddle for lacrosse, then his lacrosse highlights will show up in that huddle profile as well. And so he can look at those things on both sides. So no, he doesn't have to do that. Now, when it comes to other sports and how they're connected with coaches and stuff like that, I can't speak to that personally. What I do know, because again, it was several years ago, but at University of Maryland, my buddy and I, Coach Fitzgerald, who's the director of strength performance now with the New York Giants, he and I used to run I think they call it the 501 or 105 camp at University of Maryland, which we brought in the top shelf, highest level lacrosse players in the nation. And they came down and, that was a big way of which those kids were exposed to the hotbed of lacrosse here in this area. And, that's, I know one of the ways that a lot of these lacrosse guys are founded is through their travel lacrosse teams and these big time showcases. And so I don't know whether our coaches here personally, how connected they are. I would assume that they are, but I also know each sport's a little differently. But again, to speak to your point, if I'm on Twitter, you only need one. You need one social media account for that device to communicate with coaches. And in that Twitter, headline, you would put in there that you're a multiple sport athlete. Play lacrosse, I play this, I play that. My GPA is this. Here's my huddle profile, and you can rock and roll.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I had another question. I can't remember what it was, but I think that's all I have for you. Over.
All right. Anybody else? I'm hoping that we've got some players on here with their parents. I see some names of some players. Guys, what questions do you guys have? Because that might help me answer some questions that maybe you need to know or maybe your folks need to know. So what are the questions do you guys have? Nothing. I see some parents, everybody's hanging in case someone does ask a question. Nothing.
No, Nick definitely wants a copy of this
All right.
video for sure.
Well, the closeout then, folks, look, I hope that you can see that, I mean, I think you guys know I'm pretty passionate about our guys, about our families, about you all. And I don't want to let you all down. I don't want to let our players down. Been doing this for some time, and it's never changed each year, but I can tell you that I've learned a lot each year. So that way you guys get the benefits of the years that I've learned things. But all I want is to help push kids to find the best version of themselves, to again walk across that stage in the spring with any option or choice that they want. To not have a kid make a mistake or choose a path that starts to reduce the amount of opportunities they will have when they leave high school. I have learned though that I can't hold on too tight. During the COVID pandemic year, I loosened up a little bit. Not that my expectations changed, but I think it benefited our kids with me changing my perspective on life and focusing on the moment. Because I'll be honest with you folks, I'm a perfectionist, Marine, college level coach, professional, all these things play into who I am. Moreover, my own personal experiences growing up. And I want, and I see in every single one of the kids on this film, on this Zoom call tonight, and all the others, I see what they all can become. And I want it for them. And I used to want it a whole lot. And as you guys know, as adults, we've grown through things and we've become who we are by making mistakes, by kind of choosing some things on our own path, even though we've had some people help us see things differently or possibly give us a different way of doing it. I held on to it tight. And the guys will speak to that possibly in our off-season training program, is where it probably showed up the most. In that I stopped looking at the kids who probably weren't giving 100% of what they could. Or I stopped focusing in on the kids who aren't ready. And when I say aren't ready, they're not coming to workouts. Or I stopped, don't misunderstand what I'm saying, focusing on the kids who are underachieving in school. And what I mean by that, it doesn't mean I ignore them. My approach to them changed. Because what I didn't want to have happen is I didn't want to have the fact that I had so many kids who were underachieving in school affect my ability to see all the uncommonly great things that the other kids are doing, the kids that are performing to the level that they can perform at. It didn't mean that I forwent my responsibility to continue to encourage these guys to do well, but I wasn't going to walk into that weight room and be frustrated because there are so many guys who aren't in the weight room that could be there getting better. Because at this day, if the guys in this call are in that weight room today, then those are the kids that I've got today, and that's the moment in time which I have to take advantage of to help them become the best version of themselves. And if I'm focusing on something else that I can't control, if I'm focusing on a young man who is not quite ready, then I'm not focused on a guy who is ready, who's right there. And it changed my perspective. And so with that, moms and dads, players, the ball is in their court. Trust me, I'll push them. If they want to be pushed, I'm going to push them. But if they reflect an idea in that they're resistant or reluctant to what we're able to try to accomplish with them, I'm not gonna sit over top of them. Truth be told, we got many kids who aren't taking advantage of what we do in the off season in the weight room. Or when they do show up, they're not all in. Or we got other kids who aren't playing sports and they could be playing sports. And I'm not saying they're doing bad things. Maybe they just want to do things recreationally right now. But then when they get to a point where they're getting ready to graduate and they see their buddy going off to college, they say, I want to go play college football now. Like, are you ready to do that? My thing is, let's be ready for it. And then if it's something you don't decide to do, no problem. But my point is that I just drop a nugget. I miss you, buddy. And those guys know where to find me. And I appreciate the guys on this call who show up and are there with me, because they're the kind of juice that keep me going. I enjoy being with these guys. I do. I enjoy seeing them in the hallways. As you guys know, I'm placed in a classroom that I'm not typically supposed to be placed in. And it's not fun teaching something that I'm not in the content area of. So it takes a little extra time and energy to do that. But I tell you what, it's awesome to see your kids in the hallways. And it's awesome to know that you guys are supporting us by being here. It's awesome to know that you guys are raising great young men that I get to share and part of their life with. So with that, I do see that Nick has a question here, and we'll finish off with that.
Yeah, I finally remembered what it was. It was beginning going way back, Coach, and we definitely feel the love. You're like a second father to the kids, so much appreciated. But getting to the question, going back to the clips and the highlights and stuff like that, can they be from? Did you say they could be from only certain periods in the like junior, or they can go back as far as freshman to? I mean,
No. They can use clips from anywhere they are at, 100%. It's just that most of the time, you know, the clips that they're going to evaluate is going to be against some of the toughest competition that they can get, right? So making a tackle, you know, in your junior year, or let's just say you're on the varsity as a sophomore and you make a tackle against a kid who's a senior, weighs more than possibly making a tackle at JV ball, if you know what I'm saying.
yeah, understood.
But it does not mean that a coach can't evaluate your skill set and your talent and your athleticism from what you may have on your junior JV film. The crazy thing is, though, is that we would hope by the time a kid is a junior or a senior, even from the time they're a sophomore, that they've developed athletically that would speak to a difference in their junior senior tape than it would in their sophomore tape.
I only bring it up because I go back to one clip against Northern where there was that pick. I'm sure you can recall where he came up with it. So that's the one that always sticks out. But
Yep.
I was wondering if that would be a good one or not. So
Yeah, it would be. But remember this: it's not always about the outcome of the play. It's
right.
about the kid making the play.
Yeah.
So you know, if and I'm trying to remember back to it, I can't remember specifically. I do know what you're talking about. If Zayden did something extraordinarily athletic to make that play where it showed like his unbelievable athleticism, then dude, it's got to be on there.
Yeah, closed the gap and was in between the ball and the receiver and pulled up with it. So
Yep,
I remember that play. It was great.
Yep.
All right, that's all I have. I'm not gonna hold you up anymore, Coach. Thanks.
No problem. You're welcome. Well, if that's it, folks, we're going to end the meeting here. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you all. If you have any questions, please email me or text me, and we'll connect and take care of anything that I can help you with. Thank you so much for your time. Good night.
Good night, Coach.
Good night, Coach Sneade.
Good night.